Bruce Bell, the founder and director of Facet Homes, explains how he applied the process of designing and manufacturing a product to building houses, while Gillian White from Finer Stevens Innocent emphasises the importance of confidential information for protecting his business's interests.
The ideas behind Facet Homes were developed through a kind of understanding of both architecture but also industrial manufacturing. I originally studied industrial design as well as going on to study fine art, but I've always worked within the field of architecture. So after leaving my fine art course, I went to Norman Foster's Architects and started to kind of be aware of the way that computers were used to design and generate building information and to make buildings. And then after leaving Norman Foster's, I went to the Royal College of Art and started to experiment with digital manufacturing techniques to actually produce physical objects. I got a feel for the fact that there are these technologies out there that you can make things via the computer. And that kind of started us thinking about that there was possibilities to make whole buildings using digital manufacturing. After leaving the Royal College of Art, I set up an architectural practice with two architects. We were running quite traditional projects, doing kind of loft extensions and conversions and moving up to bigger projects of making new build houses.
Architects make their money and run their businesses by designing buildings, usually one-off buildings for clients. They don't focus their business on exploitation of their intellectual property per se. They use intellectual property, they create intellectual property when they design the building in their plans, and they also will have intellectual property copyright in the building itself. Intellectual property is an important part of the construction process, but the architect won't be basing his business model on it, and he will not be creating royalties from his IP per se.
I realised that we were drawing everything on computer right down to the nearest millimetre, but giving it to people to interpret and look at the drawings and measure it out, it just struck me that there must be some way of using that kind of digital manufacturing to do quite ordinary, everyday projects. So we got some funding from the London Development Agency to make a case study. So we did quite a lot of work and research, and then we started to get things prototyped, full-scale prototypes, and just to establish that it worked in theory. And we built a kind of section of a house over 2 stories, and that kind of really proved that the technology does work. So after we've established the concept of what we were doing, that we could build a house using existing CNC technology, we started to get a lot of interest in the thing that we were producing. We had a lot of conversations with people who wanted to maybe use our technology to build their own designs, and we spent a good year and a half following up those avenues, which didn't really come to anything. And it was only after that period that we realised that actually the true value of what it is to combine the design and the making into one process, much more like a manufacturing company, where that company is responsible for the design, the manufacturing, the delivery of the product, and they make money not through just the design fees, but they make money off selling the product.
When Bruce came to see us at the IP clinic, he was interested in putting together a licensing model for Facet Homes. We started talking to Bruce about the intellectual property in his business, and it soon became very clear to us that Bruce's big asset is know-how. It's confidential information. What's valuable is how you get from the original drawings to the end product, to the production of the module units that make up the buildings that they design. And it's the steps from A to B that is confidential information. And the risk was that someone would become a licensee and then in a few years go off and produce something very similar to what he's doing. And the risk is that, yes, he may have a claim for misuse of confidential information, but it would be very expensive to bring the claim, and there would always be an argument and uncertainty. What's really important with businesses whose main intellectual property is confidential information, is to make sure that your contracts with employees and consultants have really strong clauses concerning confidential information. You really should consider getting proper legal advice in connection with those contracts to make sure that they are drafted to cover your information and also to give you the best possible chance of enforcing that contract. You need to be thinking about protection of that confidential information both during employment or whilst the contractor is engaged working for you, but also after employment and after that individual has stopped providing services to you.
So we have developed a way of working which we call the D process, and this is essentially a very detailed computer model, three-dimensional computer model, and a series of software systems that translate that computer model into physical components. So by unfolding, flat patterning, all the way through to machining, we've got a kind of direct link from our three-dimensional design right through to the built physical object. And that's what we kind of wrap up in a term, the D process. As part of the D process, we've developed our manufacturing technology to be able to be delivered onto the building site. So this is a very unique process where our machine is in a container, dropped onto the building site, the materials are delivered there directly, and we manufacture and assemble it there and then. And this just cuts down on waste and logistics, and it's also very cost effective because we don't have the overheads of a factory. Having completed a number of small projects last year and also proven that we can manufacture our house on site with our technology, the company's starting to build up a bit of momentum. Just off the back of the last project that we completed, somebody who lives in the area has commissioned us for another house, and we also have Grand Design's television programme coming out soon, which has followed the building process for that last house. But we're also looking to see what other possibilities there are for us. So, for example, there's other possibilities for manufacturing on site just as a concept on its own, but also working with larger scale developers, providing them with tools and facilities to allow them to build a kind of high standard eco home that they're going to be expected to do in just a number of years. We are also starting to investigate the possibilities for Facet Homes overseas. So we're at the moment working with some Danish guys in Copenhagen to set up a branch of Facet Homes over there. We've already built a number of projects with them, and we're kind of experimenting or playing with the ideas around possibly franchising, but also maybe just having subsidiary companies in different countries. And that's something that we're tentatively investigating at the moment.
When you're building your brand and you're establishing your name with quality and a certain type of service, you need to start taking into account this goodwill that you've built up when you're entering into contracts with other people. So if you're entering into a contract, for example, to have someone manufacture something as part of your product, or if you're entering into a contract, say with a third party who are going to market and develop your brand in a different country, it's really important that you have clauses in that contract that emphasise the importance of your brand and quality control, and say what you can do in the event that people aren't maintaining that service. You can terminate the contract. You can ask them to rectify the quality of that product or the services they're providing.
For further information on the legal issues mentioned in this film, visit Own It, the only intellectual property advisory service tailored to the needs of businesses in the creative sector.